pleasant day to each and every one of you, Bachelor of Science and Tourism Management students. Welcome to TM Elective 3, which is Ecotourism. So for today's lesson, this will be our first lesson in our middle term or midterm, which is the natural resources, conservation, and parks. So these three elements are the foundation of what we called ecotourism. So as mentioned during our preliminary term, that ecotourism is also called as a nature tourism. So how did we define ecotourism during our prelim term? So ecotourism, again, it is the catering of tourists wishing to experience the natural environment without damaging it or disturbing its habitat. So alam naman natin na ang main purpose ng ecotourism is for us to minimize the impact brought about by the tourism on the environment. Usually, di ba, when we say impact, it can be the positive or negative impacts. But in case of ecotourism, we are going to limit, okay, as much as possible, we are going to minimize those negative impacts towards the environment. Another thing is that the idea of ecotourism is focused on uniting conservation, communities, and sustainable development through means of travel. So, syempre, as we go along the way, we are going to travel in the what we call nature tourism. Different areas, different destination that we're in, ang ating main focus is to unite conservation, which later on we will further define, to be involved in the community, the local community, the host, or the people within the community, and of course, to have a sustainable development. So, while we are traveling. So, for the learning objectives of this lesson, after reading the module or after you watch this lesson video, you should be able to, number 1, define the terms natural resources, conservation, and parks. Number 2 is reiterate the elements of natural resources, conservation, and parks. So now let's begin. So it says here that we abuse land because we regard it as a commodity belonging to us. When we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. So this statement came from Aldo Leopold. So ano ba yung sinasabi dito ni Aldo Leopold? First is we need to define two important terms in this statement, which is the commodity and community. So when we say commodity, these are the raw materials or products that can be bought or sold. While as for the community, these are the group of people living in the same place or having particular characteristics in common. So sinasabi dito sa statement ni Aldo Leopold that most likely, inaabuso natin talaga yung ating mga natural resources. Because we see to it that the land or the natural resources is like a commodity. Na parang ito yung isang bagay o yung land, pwede natin siya basta-basta ipagbili, pwede natin siya basta-basta na ibenta. Na wherein sinasabi dito ni Leopold na kung makikita lang natin na yung mga natural resources natin o yung land natin is makita natin siya as a community. Kasi in a deeper sense, when we say community, this is a feeling of fellowship with others. Okay? Usually, we share common attitudes, interests, and goal. So, when we see our community as a feeling of fellowship with other people, usually, ano ba yung fellowship na yon? Pakikisama natin towards the local environment, towards the stakeholders, towards the host community, towards the indigenous people, and of course, towards the tourists. So when we see it as a kind of fellowship or intimate relationship within the environment, usually maiiwasan natin yung tinatawag na abuse. Okay? Yung pag-abuso sa ating kalupaan or pag-abuso sa ating mga natural resources. And usually, we might begin to use our natural resources, our land, with love and respect. So next slide. The exploitation of the natural world. So, first is that we need to define what is exploitation. So a lot of times we define this term, but to reiterate it again, when we say exploitation, it is an act of treating something unfairly. Usually, we are taking advantage of something, we are misusing something, or we are overutilizing a certain thing. So, which in this case, ang pinag-uusapan natin is the exploitation of our natural resources. So, it says here that people use resources to accomplish ends in a variety of work and leisure settings. In the workplace, workers make use of other people. Okay? So, when we say other people, this refers to the human resources. Okay? Yung ating mga tao o yung ating mga employees. Okay? And of course, as well as facilities and equipment. So, facilities and equipment refers to the what we call physical resources. Usually, these are the tangible items or the tangible resources. And in some cases, the natural environment. So, natural environment refers to the what we call natural resources. And most likely, we use these human resources, physical resources, and natural resources for us to accomplish various tasks. Okay? Depende sa kung ano yung gusto natin na ma-accomplish. Ginagamit natin yung mga resources na to, usually in a workplace or leisure setting. So as you can see in the picture, we have different natural resources. We have animal resources, crude oil, forest resources. We have metals, minerals, and rocks. We also have water resources, land resources, wind and power, solar energy, and natural gas. So next one is that there is a statement that is being brought by Mr. Zimmerman. So Zimmerman noted that resources are not they become, they are not static but expand and contract in response to human action. So ano ba yung balak sabihin dito or gustong iparating ni Zimmerman? So basically, sinasabi ni Zimmerman dito, resources are not they become. So we are expecting that these resources would be in a particular or in a certain kind of function, but hindi yun yung nangyayari. They are not static. So ano ba yung sinasabi nating static? Usually when we say static, these are unchangeable. Okay? These are fixed. Usually lack of movement, action, or change. So sinasabi dito ni Zimmerman that resources are not fixed. So usually it expands and contracts. Depende sa kagustuhan or sa actions ng mga tao. Like for example, trees or mga puno. Usually, di ba, trees are supposed to grow in a forest area, in a wilderness. So usually, ano ba yung help sa atin ng mga puno? Usually, in order for us to, let's say, help each other's species, it serves as a habitat. It helps the area in case there are floods. Okay? But the sad thing is, yung gamit ng puno or yung usage ng mga trees, nagagamit siya in other, let's say, in other illegal things. For example, is the illegal logging of trees. So usually, di ba, ginagamit siya ng mga tao for extensive use for business purposes. And usually, illegal logging, from the word itself, illegal, it means there are no legal authority, there is no permit, okay, na ginagamit ng mga tao. Usually, they do it for to satisfy their needs, to satisfy those illegal needs. So, sinasabi dito ni Zimmerman, those resources are not they become. Usually, kontrolado talaga ng tao kung ano yung gagawin nila sa particular resources na yun, or natural resources. So, Zimmerman referred to the elements of the environment that do not have human utility as neutral stuff. So, dito sa sinasabi ni Zimmerman, ano ba yung sinasabi niyang neutral stuff? So, usually when we say neutral stuff, these are the things that does not contain function, ability, or utility value. Ito yung mga bagay na usually wala pa siyang gamit, wala pa siyang function, o for the meantime, wala pa siyang halaga. But of course, according to the research, neutral stuff does not mean neutral forever. Okay? Hindi naman siya habang buhay na walang silbi, hindi naman siya habang buhay na walang saysay or walang gamit. And usually sinasabi dito, the further humankind delves into the realm of the natural world, the more this neutral stuff becomes transformed into resources. So as we search, as we explore our natural world, our country, our planet, usually itong mga neutral stuff, maitatransform din siya as something that we can utilize for the betterment or for the greater or greatest good of the mankind. So as you can see in the picture, we have three different situations based on the picture. And I will going to ask you about these pictures when we met or when we meet during our Zoom meeting. So kindly analyze the picture, and when we meet during our Zoom class, I am going to ask about this picture. So next one is that natural resources are defined by human perceptions, attitude, wants, technological skills, legal, financial, institutional arrangement, as well as political system. So usually kasi ang natural resources, pag inisip natin to, these are the things that we see in the environment. Yung mga puno, mga halaman, mga animals, and so on. But usually, it depends upon the perception of an individual, of an organization, of an agency. Sometimes we define natural resources as the use for technological skills. We define it as something we can use for financial or institutional arrangement. Okay? Some other people view natural resources as something they can use for business purposes, for them to earn profit, okay? And eventually, something that we can use in order for us to develop our economy. Sabi nga nila, ang Pilipinas is mayaman sa natural resources. It's just that hindi natin siya maipakita ng buo o hindi natin siya mai-offer lahat sa mga tao. So according to Chubb and Chubb, he suggests that dividing line between what is developed and what is undeveloped is contingent upon one's perception of the meaning of the word develop in relation to tourism setting. So ano yung sinasabi dito ni Chubb and Chubb? Usually we have two resources. So as you can see in the presentation, we have developed resources and undeveloped resources. So when we say developed resources, this includes highways, facilities, sewerage, buildings, and so on that facilitate the use of a given area. So in other words, when we say developed resources from the word itself, these are the resources that are already well developed. And these are the resources that are ready to use. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ito yung mga resources na usually nagagamit na natin, pwede na natin siyang gamitin. Usually, we can use these resources at present. Sa ngayon, nagagamit natin siya. So, example of that, usually, other example will be the natural gas, petroleum, o yung mga water resources. So the next type of resources is the undeveloped resources. So this may be both in urban and wilderness environment, but the degree to which they are recognized as such is individual dependent and perhaps situation dependent. So when we say undeveloped resources, from the word itself, hindi pa siya nade-develop. But most likely, it is also called as a potential resources. Dahil hindi pa siya nade-develop, later on, pwede rin siyang ma-develop. Okay? Parang yung neutral stuff, it is not forever neutral. Ganon din si undeveloped resources. So these are the resources that are available in a particular region, particular area, and can be utilized in the future. So magagamit pa rin natin siya in the future, kaya siya tinawag na potential or undeveloped resources. For example, in other countries, yung hydroelectric power ng Niagara Falls. So most likely, before hindi naman siya nagagamit, but ngayon, because of the exploration, because of the different scientific research, nagagamit na siya. Another thing is the petroleum in India. So here in the Philippines, we also have various resources na undeveloped pa siya, but because of the further or extensive research of the scientists, ng mga people na involved sa different organization, agency, na yung mga resources na yon magagamit din siya in the future. So next one is that we have the combination of elements of the environment that structure our tourism experiences. So ano ba yung mga elements na nakakaapekto sa ating pagta-travel or sa ating travel experience within tourism and hospitality industry? So number one is the geographic location. So pag sinabi lang po natin geographic location, usually these are the position on the earth. So sa ano ba yung geographic entities natin? Tayo ba is pupunta sa isang country? We are going to a particular city, street, okay, in a particular state. So according to National Geographic Society, when we say geographic location, usually these are the place where particular point or object exists. Siyempre kung saan natin gustong pumunta, kung ano yung gusto nating makita, dun tayo sa particular country na yon pupunta. Kasi dun lang available or dun lang meron yung particular experience or resources na yon. Number 2 is the climate and weather. So, elementary pa lang tayo, pinag-aaralan na natin, ano ba si climate, ano ba si weather. So, what are the difference between the two? So, kindly take note of the following discussion. So, when we say climate, it describes what weather is like over a period of time in a specific area. Usually, pag sinabi natin kasing climate, these are the long-term or let's say, it is usually within a period of time in a specific area. So, ano ba yung example ng climate? For example, here in the Philippines, we have tropical and maritime climate. Okay? And then usually, it is consists of a high temperature, high humidity, and sometimes abundant rainfall. So, let's say for example, climates around the world. So, we have different amounts of heat received from the sun. So, doon nakadepende yung klima o yung climate ng isang country. Depende sa amount or heat of sun na nare-receive nila. And usually, we have, di ba, sa ibang bansa, may mga disyerto. They have tropical country. There are some countries that have a polar climate, sobrang lamig. May mga glacier and so on. So, the next thing naman is about the weather. So, when we say weather, these are the short-term changes in the atmosphere. Panandalian. So, usually, weather, it can be sunny, cloudy, windy, snowy, or rainy. Sometimes, di ba, gusto natin ma-experience na, maka-experience ng snow. So, we might go in a particular country para ma-experience yung snow. So, sometimes, yung mga taga-ibang bansa, or mga foreigners, they are more likely to visit mga beaches kasi gusto nilang ma-experience yung heat ng sun, di ba? Gusto nilang ma-experience yung wala sa country nila. That's why they are still going here in our country, which is the Philippines, para ibisitahin yung iba't ibang mga water resources natin, particularly mga beach. So that will be the definition for climate and weather. Next one is the topography and landforms. So, pag sinabi lang nating topography and landforms, as you can see in the picture, these are the arrangement of the natural and artificial physical features of an area. So, ito yung mga mountains, mga hills, okay? So, as you can see in the picture, valleys, lakes, ocean, rivers. Okay? Sa topography, dito din nakapaloob yung mga cities, okay, mga syudad, different dams, at yung mga roads. So, next one is the surface material. So, when we say surface material, so these are the nature of materials making up the Earth's surface. These are the rocks, the sand, the fossil, minerals, mga soil. So that's why other people, they are really fond of going sa beach. Gusto nila laging na, alam niyo yun, yung lagi silang nakaka-experience na umapak sa sand, sa buhangin. Gusto nilang na-experience na nandun sila sa particular surface material which is yung mga oceans, mga rivers. Yung iba naman gusto nila they are being immersed in a particular mountain, kaya gusto nila laging nag-hiking. Okay? So it depends upon the wants or the needs of the tourists. So next one is the water. So water, this plays a critical role in determining the type and level of outdoor recreational participation. So saan ba natin gustong pumunta? Sa beach ba? Or sa resort? Usually kasi pag resort, pwede naman to na swimming pool. Pupunta ka sa mga resort na puro swimming pool ang makikita mo. Or gusto mo ba na pumunta ka sa particular area na puro beach lang? Na as in na ito yung pinaka-accommodation mo, paglabas mo, makikita mo na yung beach. So, it depends upon. Number 6 or the sixth element is the vegetation. So, vegetation, dito rin nakapaloob yung tinatawag natin na flora, which is the plant life. So, sa vegetation, it can be direct or indirect. So, paano ba yung pag sinabi nating direct? Usually, pag direct, example, tourists taking pictures of a unique plant species. Let's say, we are going to Baguio. Pupunta tayo sa, for example, pupunta tayo sa Mines View Park. So, sa Mines View Park, nandun lahat or karamihan ng mga succulents, mga different plants, binibenta doon. So, usually, we have a direct interaction towards the plants. So, pwede tayong magpa-picture, okay? Pwede natin picturean yung mga plants, pwede natin siya, let's say, gamitin or bilhin as a souvenir or pasalubong. Wherein, yung indirect naman, usually, these are the plants or these are the total plant life na they act as a particular habitat. So, for example, yung mga trees, yung mga puno, nagiging habitat siya, nagiging tirahan siya ng iba't ibang mga species like monkeys, okay? Yung iba mga snakes or mga birds. So, usually, yun yung kanyang usage. And the last one is the fauna. So, when we say fauna, these are the animals. So, animals which also play a significant role in the recreational activities of tourists. So, remember that in fauna or in the animal life, we have the consumptive and non-consumptive. So, pag sinabi natin consumptive, these are something that we consume. Okay? There is a consumption. So, for example, fishing, hunting. Pag sinabi naman natin non-consumptive or non-consumption, usually, we take it as a part of our recreational activities. Bird watching, di ba? And of course, other kinds of activities. So, those are the elements of the environment that affects our tourism experiences. So, in relation to that environment elements, of course, those elements are prone to what we call natural disasters. So, sinasabi dito that natural disasters such as this have not only an immediate effect, but also a long-term effect. So, as stated by Weaver. So, ano ba yung sinasabi natin na natural disaster? So, usually, these are the inevitable hurricanes and earthquakes of the future. Okay? That usually damage our physical environment and, of course, the ecotourism. So, not only that, yung mga natural disasters na to, hindi lang niya basta-basta nasisira, okay, yung ating mga natural resources, but also the physical resources o yung mga developed resources, such as the roads, the hiking trails, yung mga viewing platforms na yan, highways, mga facilities, mga buildings. So, malaki din yung tendency na kapag itong mga hurricanes na to, mga earthquakes, mga typhoon, tsunami, tumama sa isang area, sa isang country, talagang magkakaroon talaga ng malaking effect. And usually, these are the long-term effects. Kaya sinasabi dito, there should be a prolonged moratorium on tourist activity that may be necessary in some areas as the environment recovers from a natural disasters. So pag sinabi nating moratorium, these are the waiting period that is set by an authority. So ibig sabihin, kapag may tumamang bagyo, hindi naman natin agad pwedeng i-open ulit yung tourism industry. Because may mga lugar, may mga areas, may mga beaches na napinsala. For example, yung nangyaring bagyong Rolly, or I think it's before Typhoon Rolly. So, ang daming mga areas within Gabaldon, here in Nueva Ecija, na nasira. For example, yung Dupinga ba yun? If I'm not mistaken, o yung area within Gabaldon, na talaga namang nasira siya. Na yung mga recreational equipments, mga recreational facilities doon is nasira. Na nakakaapekto siya hindi lang doon sa area, but of course sa lifestyle, okay, sa pamumuhay, sa economic well-being ng mga tao doon sa area, kasi wala na silang pagkukunan ng pagkakakitaan nila. Or for the meantime, magkakaroon muna ng let's say paghinto sa kanilang pinagkukunan. So as we know, the tourism industry contributes a large amount or contributes a great development and growth in a particular country. So, another example of that is Catanduanes. So, nung tinamaan si Catanduanes or doon naglandfall yung bagyong Rolly, okay, so, talagang napinsala yung Catanduanes. So, Catanduanes is located in the Bicol region of Luzon. At si Catanduanes is the 12th largest islands in the Philippines. So, tinawag din siyang Land of the Howling Winds. Bakit daw Land of the Howling Winds? Because kadalasan talaga sa kanila dumadaan or tumatama yung bagyo. At dahil doon, dahil sikat sila sa mga natural encounter, particularly with the nature, yung mga beaches, mga churches, so yung ibang mga pinupuntahan, yung mga tourist destination within Catanduanes is naapektuhan din. So, the Earth's bounty. So, in an influential treatise in historical roots of our present-day ecological dilemma, White argues strongly for the notion that where formerly humankind was part of nature, and over the past several hundred years, our species has become the exploiter of nature and natural resources. So, ano ba yung sinasabi dito ni White? Sinasabi lang dito ni White that humankind was a part of nature. Tayong mga tao, tayong mga nilalang sa mundo, we are part of the nature. And dahil tayo is part ng nature, we are also the exploiter of nature and natural resources. So most likely, we are also part of the era, or we are also part of the situation na tayo mismo na mga tao ang sumisira, okay, ang nagkakaroon ng overutilization sa ating nature. Hindi man natin siya napapansin as of now, but yung simpleng pagtapo natin ng balat ng candy sa, let's say, sa kung saan saang lugar, yung simpleng hindi natin pag-recycle ng mga gamit or ng mga basura, yung simpleng hindi natin pag-separate ng biodegradable from non-biodegradable, usually those things has an effect sa ating nature and natural resources. Again, we might not see it now, but the future generation, yung mga magiging family natin, yung mga magiging anak natin in the future, they will experience yung mga ginawa natin ngayon. Because it will take time for us to experience yung damage na nagawa natin sa ating nature. That's why, as much as possible, agency, mga government agency, mga private sector, mga NGO, na talagang ginagawa nila yung kanilang makakaya para ma-save yung ating planet, para ma-save yung ating nature or environment. Para sa ganun, matiran pa natin siya, matiran pa siya ng mga future generation. So next one is the second foundation of ecotourism, which is the conservationism, o yung tinatawag natin na conservation. So, in this paragraph, sinasabi lang dito na in France and Britain, nagkaroon talaga ng deforestation. So, ano ba yung sinasabi nating deforestation? These are the permanent removal of trees, okay, to make room for something besides the forest. So, ibig sabihin, we are removing the trees permanently, okay? Nagkakaroon ng illegal logging, nagkakaroon ng something na hindi maganda doon sa particular forest, na wherein kino-convert natin siya into an agriculture, kino-convert natin into a construction ng mga buildings, ng mga hotels, ng iba't ibang mga establishment. Ginagamit siya as a manufacturing firm or nagtatayo ng mga manufacturing plants. So, yun yung naging cause ng problema ng France and Britain. And usually, yung deforestation na yon, nag-cause siya into soil erosion and poor productivity. So, prone na ngayon yun sa baha, prone na siya sa iba't ibang mga natural disasters. So, sinasabi dito ng roots of conservationism is that we have conservancies and conservators. So when we say conservancies, these are the associations, okay? Isa siyang grupo na wherein they are dedicated to protect the environment. Okay? Usually these are the areas, these are the association, organization na ang kanilang aim is to protect the environment. While as for the conservators, these are the foresters, okay? So, ito yung mga taong in charge na particular area na wherein ang kanilang gagawin is to conserve and protect also the environment. So, ang kaibahan lang nila, yung conservancies, these are the association. Madami sila. Yung foresters naman, sila yung mga tao talagang in charge na particular area. Merong parang caretaker sa particular area. So, next one is the conservationism evolved in three fronts. Usually, these three fronts or these three elements is being implemented or it is implemented in North America. But then, dahil ito namang mga pinag-aaralan natin is flexible, other countries might also adopt these three elements. So, we have harmony, efficiency, and spirituality. So, let's talk about them. So, harmony, so when we say the word harmony, these are the combination of separate but related parts in which they are being used to bring unity. So, sinasabi sa harmony, it is a combination of, let's say, combination of the natural resources that we are going to use in order for us to, let's say, produce a particular goods, produce a particular services, na ang ending nun is that we can have a profit, makakapag-contribute tayo sa economic growth. So, but according to Marsh, meron siyang sinabi dito na statement. The earth is fast becoming an unfit home for its noblest inhabitant, and another era of equal human crime and human improvidence would reduce it to such condition of impoverished productiveness, of shattered surface, of climatic excess, and as to threaten the deprivation, barbarism, and perhaps even extinction of species. Sinasabi dito that yung ating planeta, which is the Earth, hindi na siya parang nagiging fit na tirhan natin because of the various negative things na nangyayari sa ating planeta. And usually, meron tayong tatlong words dito na kailangan na bigyan ng emphasis or i-emphasize pa siya. So, first is the deprivation. So, pag sinabi nating deprivation, this is something that, things that we make to the point na nagkakaroon na ng deterioration, nasisira, making anything that is bad. Okay? So, example niyan is yung mga ginagawa ng mga tao. Diba? Excessive animal hunting, illegal logging, deforestation. Ano pa ba usually ginagawa natin sa ating mga natural resources? Excessive use of the, let's say, mga chemicals, noise pollution, air pollution, water pollution. So, lahat ng yon nagkakaroon ng deterioration or may damage na maiko-contribute yun sa ating environment. Next one is the barbarism. So, when we say barbarism, this is the extreme cruel or unpleasant behavior. This is something that is absent or absence of the culture and civilization. So, ibig sabihin, nagiging barbaric na yung mga tao. Hindi na natin alam kung ano ba yung tamang behavior kapag nagpunta tayo sa isang destination. Tama ba na nasa beach ka? Yes, okay lang na let's say, mag-picnic kayo around the beach. Okay lang na magkaroon kayo ng parang bonfire na celebration sa beach. Pero kung hindi natin siya aayusin after natin or hindi natin ililigpit yung mga kalat natin, hindi natin itatapon yung mga kalat natin on the right time na tayo is aalis na sa particular area, doon nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na unpleasant behavior. Ibig sabihin, alam naman natin yung dapat gawin pero hindi natin ginagawa. Na later on, sino ba yung ine-expect natin na magligpit ng kalat natin? Hindi porket meron tayong mga basurero, mga basurera, kahit na tayo is merong mga utilities, may mga maintenance, ganyan, hindi sapat na sila lang yung kikilos. Usually, we as people, tayo dapat yung nagko-contribute ng positive impact sa ating environment. That's why other restaurant, other school, di ba, nakalagay sa kanilang mga specific area, clean as you go. Ikaw na mismo yung magkusa. And the last term is the extinction of species. So when we say extinction, these are the termination of kind of the organism. So usually extinction, unti-unti nang namamatay yung mga species na bibihira lang, yung mga species na limited lang, because hindi sila naaalagaan ng maayos. So, what causes extinction? Saan ba nagmumula? Usually, overhunting, overharvesting, overpopulation, overpollution, okay? Turning a forest into something that is for the benefit of the mankind. Diba? Yung napag-usapan kanina, forest into agriculture, forest turning into a construction of the buildings, of establishments, and so on. So, harmony, also mentioned here by Marsh, is that identify the collective power of the large corporation as the factor most responsible for increasing negative impacts to the natural world. So, sinasabi dito ni Marsh that itong mga large corporations na to, mga large businesses na to, they're also responsible, okay? They're also contributing negative impacts in our world or in the natural world. Because dahil malaking korporasyon to, malaking businesses to, malaki din yung mga resources, malaki din yung mga, let's say, mga waste na naiko-contribute nila sa environment. Let's say, for example, a big fast food chain. Diba? Ang daming Jollibee, ang daming McDonald's all around the world. So, ibig sabihin, if they will not, let's say, if they will not fix yung kanilang mga waste, if they will not implement proper waste management, ibig sabihin, isa rin sila sa mga contributor or isa rin sila sa mga exploiter ng natural world or ng ating natural resources. Kaya nga isang company, they have corporate goals, they have corporate vision and mission. Nang aim nila is not just for the profit, but also to benefit, but also to contribute something good in the society, in the community, and in the country. So next one is the Roosevelt administration. So Roosevelt administration came from Franklin D. Roosevelt. So which is, he is the 32nd President of America. So ano ba yung ine-emphasize dito sa Roosevelt administration? Nagkaroon daw ng masyadong pagpayag sa pag-grant ng favors with regards sa karapatan ng mga tao sa kanilang mga land o yung tinatawag na land rights. So, ang something na important dito sa Roosevelt administration is that they created numerous programs to provide relief to the unemployed and farmers while seeking economic recovery. Because economic recovery, kapag may mga nangyayaring natural disasters, kapag may nangyayaring negative events sa particular country. So, ginawa nila, nagkaroon sila ng action. Ano yung action na yun? To find an adequate means of controlling and regulating corporate activities, to resist the efforts of corporation to exploit the natural resources of the nation on their own behalf. Sinasabi lang dito na dapat magkaroon tayo ng control at tamang regulation sa mga corporate activities. Lahat ng gagawin ng isang company, lahat ng gagawin ng iba't ibang mga tourist or tourism sector na yan, dapat may control, dapat may regulation. That's why meron tayong tinatawag na tourism policy. Na sa policy na yon, dun nakasaad lahat ng mga regulation na dapat ipatupad or dapat na sundin ng mga tao, katulong ng mga organizations na yan. And of course, to resist efforts of corporation to exploit the natural resources. As much as possible, we want to limit those activities na wala namang maidudulot na maganda sa environment. The third element of the North America's three fronts is the efficiency. So, dati pa man naririnig na natin yung term na efficiency. But efficiency means the fundamental reduction in the amount of wasted resources that are used to produce a given goods or services. And usually, itong mga goods and services na to, ito yung tinatawag natin na mga output. Something that we offer sa mga tao. So, sinasabi lang ng efficiency is that we have to reduce the waste. Okay? Kailangan maiwasan natin yung sobrang pag-aaksaya ng mga bagay-bagay. Okay? Yung sobrang pag-aaksaya ng mga natural resources na hindi naman talaga kailangan. Na hindi naman natin siya na-utilize properly. So, according to Gifford Pinchot or Pinot, kung ano man yung kanyang pronunciation, he developed a concept of natural resources for the greatest good of the greatest number for the long time. So, ang idea dito is that magde-develop tayo ng idea kung paano ba natin gagamitin yung ating mga natural resources sa paanong paraan. So, magkakaroon tayo ng some kind of plan or some kind of concept or idea. Na wherein, kapag nakapag-create tayo ng plano na yun, nakapag-create tayo ng idea, it will be for the greatest good, para sa kabutihan ng nakararami at para sa kabutihan na itong plano na to, tatagal siya, magtatagal. Hindi lang basta short term, kundi long term, pang matagalan yung plano. Hindi lang sa year na to hanggang 2022, but also this concept will cover the future generation. So, yun yung gustong banggitin dito ni Mr. Gifford. So, most directly, conservation was to engender direct control over natural resources on the basis of three principles. To to develop the continent's existing natural resources for the benefit of the people who live there and now, to prevent the waste of natural resources, to develop and preserve resources for the benefit of the many and not merely for the profit of a few. So, maganda yung in-emphasize dito o yung third principle. We have to develop, we have to preserve these natural resources para sa benefit ng nakararami. At hindi lang para sa profit or pagkakakitaan ng kakaunti. Yung kakaunti na yun, usually yun yung mga businessman. Diba? Yung mga entrepreneurs. Yung mga taong nagmamay-ari ng iba't ibang mga tourism establishments na yan. Hindi lang para sa kanila. Okay? Usually, we are going to conserve, we are going to preserve, develop these resources, develop our environment for the benefit of the many, ng nakararami. Next one is the spirituality. So, spirituality, dito natin ipapasok yung term na romanticism. So, when we say romanticism, usually, naging famous yung term na to with regards to literature and arts. So, romanticism is something that has an emphasis on emotion and individualism, as well as the glorification of the past and nature. So, dito natin sinasabi that we have a deep emotion, we have different, let's say, deep connection sa ating environment. So, yung romanticism kasi, dito nakapaloob yung tinatawag natin na freedom from rules. We have the beliefs that imagination is superior to reason. Mas pinapagana natin yung ating mga imagination. Dito din nakapaloob yung love and worship of nature. That's why sinasabi dito na may mga following conditions. Untouched spaces had the greatest significance. These spaces had a purity with human contact degrades. Wilderness was a place of deep spiritual significance. The conquest of nature was a fall from grace. Medyo matatalinhaga yung mga terms o yung statement. But most likely, ang kanyang ine-emphasize lang is a deeper spirituality and awareness within the environment or within the nature. So, meron ditong statement or interpretation or doctrine si Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, si Ralph Waldo Emerson, meron siyang binanggit dito na tinatawag na doctrine. So, sinabi dito that the main doctrine of Emerson's interpretation of the Romanticism surrounded the belief that although mankind was firmly rooted to the physical world, people had the ability to transcend this condition spiritually in searching for and achieving deeper philosophical truths. So, ang pinaka-ina-emphasize dito ni Emerson is that we have the ability to transcend. So, on our last discussion sa ecotourism, nabanggit doon yung tinatawag na transcendentalism. So, transcendentalism means it is the people, men and women, that usually they have equal knowledge about themselves. Kilala natin yung sarili natin. We have knowledge, we have learnings, and at the same time, we also have knowledge about the world or about the surroundings in us. Now wherein, we can have the capability to transcend or go beyond. So we have the ability to see, hear, touch, taste, and feel kung ano man yung nasa paligid natin. So transcendentalism or transcend, meaning there is a self-reliance, there is a sense of independency within the environment. We are independent in a sense that kaya natin mag-travel alone, some people. But most likely, we are also dependent sa nature. Okay? We can really connect sa nature. That's why other people, pinipili nila na mag-hiking because they want to be immersed, they want to feel na nandun sila sa isang area na wherein it is God's creation. nararamdaman nila, nafe-feel nila yung atmosphere, nararamdaman nila yung vibe ng nature. So, yun yung gustong i-interpret dito ni Emerson. So, the third element of the foundation of the ecotourism is the parks and protected areas. So, ano ba yung tinatawag natin na park? So, the concept of park is one that is firmly established within civilization, or the Greeks and Romans met at a designated open spaces, or the agora, while in medieval times, the European nobility used their private lands as hunting reserves. So, sinasabi lang natin dito that park, it is something that we usually go. Kaya lang kasi ang pagkakaalam talaga natin sa park is, for example, Luneta Park, diba? Freedom Park, but most likely, parks can also be the what we call private lands. Okay, so na later on, we will discuss. So, parks and protected areas, this refers to the public lands held in trust with both a recreation and tourism and conservation preservation mandate, and owned and usually operated by a public agency. So, parks and protected areas, ito yung mga public lands. Pag sinabi nating public lands, it can be used by a lot of people. It's either for recreation or for tourism purposes, for conservation or preservation. And usually, ito, pagmamayari siya ng gobyerno or ng public agency. So, they have a certain mystique to travelers interested in some of the best representative natural regions or countries. So, there are several descriptions about parks and protected areas. So, it was Jost who suggested that visitation to parks may increase by virtue of their designation as such. So, ang parks may iba't iba siyang uses, as mentioned earlier. Number 2 is that Harroy has shown that Yellowstone was created to satisfy a broad mandate of concerns that had emerged from United States frontier mentality. So later on, ipapakita natin yung itsura ni Yellowstone. The third one is that Canada's first national park, which is the Banff, on the other hand, was established for political and economic reasons, including the generation of tourism dollars. Number 4, to Jansen, a preferable approach would be to view the national park as an agent of social change, where local people will be stakeholders within the park and their social and economic activities. So the tourism and farming will be ecologically sustainable. So let's see. So in this picture, pinapakita dito yung tinatawag na Yellowstone National Park. So it is located in United States of America. So si Yellowstone National Park, as you can see, sobrang ganda niya. Sobrang kakaiba yung itsura ng national park na to. So it is one of the oldest and the largest and best known national park in United States. So ano ba yung gamit ni Yellowstone National Park? It serves as a hydrothermal features in the world. And of course, it is one of the UNESCO's Biosphere Reserve and World Heritage Site. So kung nakikita nyo, merong mga usok-usok, okay? So usually, Yellowstone National Park, Yellowstone sits on the top of a dormant volcano. Ibig sabihin, active volcano. Na usually meron silang mga geysers and hot springs. So ano ba yung tinatawag natin na geyser and hot spring? Usually, geyser is also a hot spring. It is a spring that usually discharge water turbulently. So ito yung mga spring na kusa silang nag-e-erupt. Okay? Kusa silang naglalabas, nagbubuga ng mga water. And usually yung water na yun, sobrang init niya. Kasi nga naman, nandun siya sa mismong volcano. Okay? So that is Yellowstone National Park. The next one is the Banff. So Banff is located in Alberta, Canada. Okay, so it is located in Canada. Now wherein, as you can see in the picture, it is famous for its colored lake. So as you can see, yung lake mismo, kakaiba yung kulay ng tubig. Okay, and usually, they have a majestic mountains, so it is really visible in the picture, and endless outdoor adventure. So it is the first national park in Canada and the third national park in the world. And usually, dito talaga pinupuntahan is yung mga mountain destination. So next one is that Lovejoy writes that today park serves as a variety of purposes but also face a number of pressure. So, kahit yung mga natural resources, kahit yung iba't ibang mga tourist destination, itong national park, itong mga protected areas na to, they also face a number of pressure. Ibig sabihin, meron ding mga negative impact na nangyayari, negative impact silang nare-receive. Na wherein, sabi nga natin, tayong humankind should be the caretaker of our environment. So, parks therefore have come to rely on tourism as a means by which to generate income from the growing world population with increasing disposable time, financial well-being, and personal mobility. So, parks and protected areas also contributes income in our country. So, there are 8 key obstacles to effective management of park-people relationship. Usually, ano ba yung mga nagiging problema when it comes to managing a park or protected areas na yung tao din mismo yung nagko-contribute. So, number 1 is the institutional structure of the national parks. So, usually, there is a lack of concept of the park and policy structure. So, minsan kasi yung concept or idea natin on how we see parks is different from one another. Diba? Minsan yung parks, tinitingnan natin to as something that we can visit. As it is something that it is being created by God and the mankind. But some other people see to it that park, ito yung lugar na pwede tayong mag-date, ito yung lugar na pwede tayong mag-picnic and so on, magkalat tayo after. So, it depends upon the concept or the idea on how you view this particular place. And of course, the policy structure. So, ano ba yung mga pinapatupad na regulation? Ano ba yung pinapatupad na policy doon sa particular park? There is a lack of trust between local people and park authorities, lack of communication between parks and local people, large number of different stakeholders in the park, the polarization of power between government and local population. So when we say polarization, there is a division. Nahati yung unity or nahati yung involvement ng government and local population. Usually nagkakaroon ng pag-clash or hindi pagkakasundo with regards to the different things. So, risk and uncertainty in entering into discussion aim at reducing conflict. Sometimes, hindi na natin napag-uusapan or hindi na napag-uusapan ng local government, ng national government, or ng mga people involved within the area yung mga problema. Nang sana, kung napag-usapan yun, na-reduce yung conflict. Next one is the enforcement of agreements between park and local population, and the lack of opportunity for all to participate in decision-making process. So sabi nga natin, the local community, the people living in the community or the host population, they also need to contribute or participate with regards to decision-making process. Hindi naman kailangan na buong barangay. Usually, dapat in a particular community, may mga representative, may mga people in charge na wherein kasali din sila sa paggawa ng desisyon pagdating sa mga ganitong klaseng usapin. Usapin with regards to natural resources, with regards to the parks and protected areas. So next one is that we have the categories for conservation management. So we have 11 categories for conservation management. So, isa-isahin natin siya together with some examples. So, the category number 1 is the Diego Garcia Camp and Thunder Cove. So, it is an example of the strict nature reserve. So, it belongs to category 1. So, ano ba yung sinasabi sa category 1? So, these are the areas with some outstanding ecosystem features and of species of flora and fauna. Okay? So, ito yung mga area na sinasabi natin na dito sa lugar na to, dito mo din talaga makikita yung scientific importance ng flora and fauna. So, from the word itself, strict nature reserve. Ibig sabihin, there should be a strict control of human interference. Usually, ito yung mga areas na hindi talaga masyadong pumupunta yung mga tao. Ito yung area na hindi siya masyadong open for visitation. So, example nga niyan is yung Diego Garcia and Camp Thunder Cove. So, it is located in the islands of Africa and Asia. So, in between. So, it is located in Mauritius. So, formerly known as a Camp Justice. So, Camp Justice or the Diego Garcia and Camp Thunder Code is a United States Navy and Air Forces support facility. Okay? Na ang kanilang target is to, parang nagsaserve siya as a base for the US Navy and Air Forces. Kaya siya tinawag na strict nature reserve. The second category is the national park. So, example of that is the Mount Pulag National Park. So, bakit siya tinawag na national park? It's because this is a relatively large area where one or several ecosystems are not materially altered by human use. And usually, dito talaga there is a strict government authority. Now, wherein, visitors are allowed to enter, pero may specific condition. So, ano yung mga conditions na yon? It can be for inspirational purposes, for education purposes, cultural or recreational purposes. That's why before na mag-hike ka sa Mount Pulag, merong briefing muna na nagaganap. They still need to emphasize important things bago ka mag-hike. Okay? As also mandated by the government. Open siya to visit, pero merong mga restriction. So, the third category is the natural monument and natural landmark. So, for example, sa natural monument, we have the Chocolate Hills Natural Monument. So, as we all know, Chocolate Hills is located in the province of Bohol. So, according to research, they have at least 1,260 to 1,776 hills. Okay? And usually, it is a geological formation. Hindi siya gawa ng tao. It is a geological formation. So sa natural monument and natural landmark, it contains one or more specific natural features of outstanding national significance because of the uniqueness or rarity should be protected. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga lugar or yung mga, let's say, sites na talagang bibihira. Kakaiba yung kanyang mga itsura. Kakaiba yung formation ng mga monument or landmarks na to. So, there is literally no sign or human activity. Okay? So, kung meron man kakaunti, for example, sa Chocolate Hills, so within the area or near the area, pwede kang mag-zipline. Pwedeng mag-offer ng mga adventure activities. But most likely, kakaunti or wala talaga usually activity na involved doon sa mismong site or area. So, for the natural landmark, as you can see, the Shiprock Natural Landmark, so it is located in northwest New Mexico. So, it is a volcanic neck, yan kung makikita nyo, and usually ang kanyang itsura, it's like a bird. So, according to research, bird-like volcanic rock formation. So, yan yung kanyang itsura. Okay. So, next slide is the Category 4, which is the Nature Conservation Reserve, Managed Nature Reserve, and Wildlife Sanctuary. So, ito naman, sa category na to, ang main purpose niya is the protection of nature, production of harvestable renewable resources that may play a secondary role in management. And usually, dito talaga nakapaloob yung tinatawag na habitat manipulation. So as you can see in the picture, at the upper left side is the Tarsier Conservation Area. So Tarsier Conservation Area, of course, from the word itself, andyan yung mga tarsier, kung makikita nyo. It has a 6 hectares tarsier viewing area in Lobok, Bohol. So the second one is the Wildlife Sanctuary. So Wildlife Sanctuary is, ayan, example natin is from Kalawit Wildlife Sanctuary located in Busuanga, Palawan. So it is a game reserve featuring large African mammals, giraffes, zebras, okay, mga horses. So lahat sila is nandun sa Kalawit Wildlife Sanctuary. So according to research, they have 1,870 animals, and ito yung major conservation showcase for wildlife habitat in the Philippines, the Kalawit Wildlife Sanctuary. So category 5 is the protected landscape or seascape. So example natin dyan is the Batanes Island. So, Batanes Island is, ayan, known for its famous views of wonders and nature. Kasi kung makikita ninyo, di ba? Yung Batanes Island, dyan mo makikita yung mga sobrang gandang hills, mga lighthouses, yung view mo towards Pacific Ocean, and of course, yung mga pakikisama natin sa mga locals, sa mga indigenous people within the area. So, Batanes Island is situated in Cagayan Valley. So, ano ba yung purpose ni protected landscape or seascape? So, they possess a special aesthetic quality resulting human and land interaction. So, yun naman yung kanyang pinaka-purpose. And usually, it is also used for recreational and tourist uses. So the next category is category 6, which is the resource reserve. Example natin dyan is the Upper Agno River Basin Resource Reserve. So, sino ba si Upper Agno River Basin Resource Reserve? So, it is a protected area located in Benguet or in a Cordillera Central region. So, itong si Upper Agno River Basin, it feeds Ambuklao and Binga Dam. Okay? So, meron silang connection ni Ambuklao Dam and Binga Dam. Na wherein, itong dalawang dam na to, they are the oldest dam. Okay? They are the oldest hydroelectric plants na wherein, itong si Ambuklao and Binga, sila yung nagsusupply ng hydroelectric power sa city ng Baguio and Benguet. Okay, so kindly take note of that. So, sila yung dalawang oldest na dam na nagko-contribute ng hydroelectric power kay Baguio at kay Benguet. Okay. So, and usually the resource reserve is open for potential studies, okay, ng mga scientists, mga people involved in the government. So, para makita nila ano pa yung mga potential uses within that kind of category. So, next one or the category 7 is the Natural Biotic Area Anthropological Reserve. So, example natin dyan is the Coron Island Natural Biotic Reserve. So, ano ba yung sinasabi dito sa category 7? So, natural areas where the influence or technology of modern humans has not significantly interfered with or been absorbed by traditional ways of life of inhabitants. So, sinasabi dito sa Coron Island National Biotic Area na na-preserve pa din nila yung nature kahit na ang dami ng mga innovation nowadays. So, Coron Island is the third largest island in Palawan. So, bakit siya nakilala? Bakit siya masyadong naging famous even sa ibang bansa? Because of its unique ecological features. At the same time, yung kanyang mga rock formation. So, the entire area is being protected. So, when we say biotic, from the word itself, bio means life. So, for anthropological reserve naman, it is basically designed to allow the way of life of societies living in harmony with the environment. So, ibig sabihin natin dito, involve yung tinatawag nating society and culture. So, next category is category 8, which is the multiple use management area and managed resource area. So, example natin dito is the El Nido Taytay Managed Resource Area. So, from the word itself, multiple, ibig sabihin, these large areas are suitable for the production of different things or different processes. For example, yung wood products, water, pasture, wildlife, marine products, and even outdoor recreation. So, si El Nido Taytay Managed Resource Area, it consists of 36,000 hectares land and 54,000 hectares of marine waters. So, ganun siya kalawak. It has beaches, mangroves, clear waters, forests, and farmlands. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga multiple resources within the area is suitable or pwedeng gamitin ng mga tao within the area. Basta meron pa rin talagang regulation or mga policy na susundin. So, next one is the category 9 or the Biosphere Reserve. So, example natin dyan is the Dana Biosphere Reserve. So, sino ba si Dana Biosphere Reserve? So, basically, it is a Jordan's largest nature reserve, which is spectacular for their mountain and valleys. Okay? And then, it is also being recognized by UNESCO as the large representation of biodiversity. So, si Biosphere Reserve is intended to conserve representative natural areas throughout the world through the creation of global and national network reserve. So, sa Biosphere Reserve, it can also be a benchmark for us to monitor yung ating environmental change. It can also be the areas that can be used for scientific purposes, educational, and training. So, next one is the category 10, which is the World Heritage Site. So, World Heritage Sites, ito yung mga talagang kilala na din natin. Example is the Taj Mahal. So, it is being famous for its white marble mausoleum built in order of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan in memory of his favorite wife. So, tinayo ang Taj Mahal or create siya in commemoration with the memory of his wife. Okay? And it is considered as a jewel of Muslim art in India. So, si World Heritage Site is mainly to protect natural but also the cultural features considered to be the World Heritage quality. Kaya nga, di ba, bago ka masama sa mga list of World Heritage Sites, kailangan talaga na yung particular area has a story. It has a natural or it has a different or, let's say, great or best cultural features. And usually, dito kasi talagang dapat may maintenance tayo eh. Maintenance of heritage values kasi it is open for public. And it is also open to provide research and environmental monitoring. Okay. So next category or the last category is the category 11, which is the wetlands of international importance. So ano ba si wetlands of international importance? So dito nakapasok yung tinatawag natin na Ramsar. So Ramsar Convention is recognized for the importance of indigenous and local communities in showing and delivering wise use of wetlands. So ano ba kasi si wetlands? So wetlands, ang usage niya is for the water storage, para makontrol natin yung pagbaha, okay? Water purification. It can also be the place for food and habitat of the fish. So, si Ramsar is located in Iran, okay? So, usually, ang management procedure natin sa category na to is to prevent destruction and deterioration of the national agreement to international convention, which is yung tinatawag natin na Ramsar. And a lot of countries are also involved in this category. Okay. So, protected areas, the international scene. So, we have here the so-called 4 extreme approaches to human ecology that humans use to define the relationship with the planet. So, I think some of the terms are also being discussed to you during your high school days maybe. So, we have dominion, stewardship, participation, and abdication. For dominion, sinasabi lang dito na humans are held to be in charge of the earth. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, tayo as a human being, tayo yung in charge, tayo yung may trabaho para pangalagaan yung ating planeta, yung ating mundo. So, they can be exploitative or serve the well-being of all in their role as a king. So, we were like kings sa ating sariling mundo. Na wherein ang aim natin is that we are in charge to take care, to preserve our planet. So, number 2 is stewardship. So, when we say stewardship, it puts human in the role of caretaker of the earth, managing the earth in trust as an agent for some employer or client. The client may be the human race or the earth itself. So, sa stewardship naman, from the word itself is steward, tanga or taga-pangalaga. Okay, sorry for the word. Medyo nabubulal na si ma'am. Taga-pangalaga. Okay? So, sinasabi dito na tayo yung taga-pangalaga ng earth or maybe tayo yung magiging agent to be the caretaker. So, yung mga clients natin, yung ating mga other people na dapat na pangalagaan din is tayo mismo na mga human or yung mismong planeta natin. So, number 3 is participation. So, it has a connection with the term symbiosis with other species of the planet. So, that the position of equity is conveyed. So, dito naman, humans serve by constructing cooperative and complementary relationship through which all other species are better off. So, participation, it means there are interaction, symbiosis, ibig sabihin, meron tayong interaction, connection towards the humankind and towards the species o yung animal life. Number 4 is abdication. So, abdication, it means all rights to prosper are relinquished when such rights conflict with functional values of other species. So, ibig sabihin lang dito, we have different functional values, we have different rights, na tayo naman is nagiging predator and prey relationship. Nagkakaroon ng predator and prey. Now, wherein, we are not just also pertaining to the species, but also to the mankind. Kasi sabi nga natin, tayo yung pwedeng mag-serve as tagapangalaga ng ating mundo, ng ating planeta, but at the same time, tayo din yung pwedeng mag-destroy. So, tayo yung pwedeng magpakain, tayo rin yung pwedeng kainin ng mga negative impacts na ito. So, those are the 4 extreme approaches to human ecology. So, that concludes our Module 3.1, which is the natural resources, conservationism or conservation, and parks and protected areas. So those are the foundations of ecotourism. So this module might be too long because of the some important terms or the several important terms that we discussed. So just don't forget yung mga in-emphasize natin, the natural resources, the conservation, the parks, and also the categories of natural resources. So feel free to rewatch this lesson video in our YouTube channel in case you missed some important points. So other discussions or further elaborations and clarification will be discussed during our Zoom class. So thank you so much for listening in our today's lesson, and see you again next time. Thank you and keep safe.